We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abbie Show. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Kate and Abbie Show. This is episode 35, and this is a special episode, special edition, Christmas edition of The Kate and Abbie Show. We thought we'd do something fun for the holiday season and answer some questions, and the style of this podcast is going to be like rapid fire answering your questions. So we're going to
we got a lot of them.
Yeah, we got a bunch of questions.
We got a lot of questions.
It's funny because I just posted it this morning. I'm like, oh, darn, I forgot to post it. I was going to post it yesterday.
Yeah.
And almost 100 comments came in just since this morning. So we're going to try to answer as many as possible. So we're going to go through them quickly so that we can get to as many as possible. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I forgot to set my watch. I always have to set my watch for a timer so that I know when to go and fix the camera.
Yeah.
So let's set that.
Most cameras will stop recording conveniently at a half hour
it's
mark.
So annoying.
Dang.
So that's why our podcasts are usually a half hour long.
Yep.
Little known fact. Anyway, let's get right into it. So for the sake of time, our clock is ticking down now. We have to jump right into your questions and we're going to start answering them. Okay. First questions first. And this one is kind of, there's going to be some personal ones mixed in and then also some writing related ones.
Nice.
So there's a lot of writing ones, but then there's a few personal ones, which I think will be fun.
Rad. Let's go.
First one is, when were you both born?
I was born in the winter this month, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was born in the summer. And that explains why Katie likes the cold so much and I hate the cold.
Yep. We just got like 2.5 feet of snow and I'm rejoicing. Abby won't leave the house.
I'm not. I'm crying. Would you ever write a Christmas novel?
Sure.
That's all I'm going to say about it. But yes, I would definitely write a Christmas novel. And I'm not going to say anything else. What's the difference of story in film versus in novel? I always hear not to add backstory for the first chapter unless it's a movie where you can show it easily scene by scene. I feel like there's not much of a difference there because even though they're two different mediums, you can learn storytelling truths from both, right? Because we study movies like all the time.
Yeah. Well, I love what you always say, which is a story is a story is a story.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not big into reading books. When I read mostly nonfiction. I'm not a big reader. I write all the time and I don't read as much. I really enjoy film. The medium of film has always spoken to me more, and I really enjoy watching film. And so I think that, like you can learn so much about your writing from watching film and storytelling.
Yeah. And I think that you can add backstory in like just as easily, even though it's not visual. It still like comes across as visual because everything that comes up on the screen of your imagination, so to speak, is visual. Right. So I think that you could easily like take a prequel and make that feel like the opening backstory of a movie. Like, we talked about that in our prequel podcast, so definitely check that one out. We talk about how like the first few minutes of every Disney film is really like a prequel to the story.
Well, like even 100 Days starts with like a flashback. So you get some backstory. Even though it's like recent history, it's still flashback.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives context without having to slow any of the story down.
Yep.
This one's kind of fun, Christmas related. If you could see any characters have their own A Christmas Carol special, what movie / book / TV franchise would you choose? Like how they always do, or I've seen several of these of like, they take the story of A Christmas Carol and like make it for different movies and books and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, so many of them.
Yeah, seriously. What would be yours?
Almost any.
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice would be fun.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say like anything like Jane Austen or even like something
Mr. Darcy, like going through the ghosts of his past.
That would be great.
His present, his future. Someone needs to do that.
That would be really fun. Or Lizzie Bennet.
Yeah.
That'd be good. That'd be really cool.
That would be awesome. Could you please discuss about writing a perfect short story? that's one that we need to do.
Yeah, we need to do a whole podcast on writing short stories.
Because we've written a lot of short stories.
Yeah, we have. You have a short story up on Wattpad, right?
Yes,
So
I do.
That's
It's actually kind of winter themed.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of Christmassy. It's really cute. If you guys haven't read it, you should go read it.
It was like years ago.
Go hunt Abby down on Wattpad. It's a good story. I like it.
It's sort of like 100 Days of Sunlight in a way.
It's heartwarming. It's a heartwarming story.
Yes, it is. Thank you. But we're going to do a podcast on that for sure. Yeah. And I'm going to do a video on writing a short story too, because you can use the 3-act story structure for a short story, but there's also this unique opportunity that you have with short stories to like sort of just present an idea. Yeah. Rather than like, you know, have a whole character transformation. You don't necessarily need to do that. Right. It can be a great medium to just like present an idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of my short stories I've written have been more on the abstract side.
Yeah, more abstract.
Yeah,
get like someone thinking.
A little more conceptual.
Yeah, and just like wondering.
But you can still do quite a lot, and like short stories can really span like, you know, there's a lot of wiggle room in a short story. It can be, you know, 15,000 words, or it could be 2,000 words. So it's really subjective too, which gives you a lot of room to play with.
Yeah. But we're definitely going to talk more about this in depth,
sure,
because that'll be a very helpful podcast, I think.
Yeah, well.
How do you balance the character's journey with the historical facts in a historical fiction novel?
I feel like that's a good question for you.
I would say make the historical facts relevant to the character's journey. Like that is the most impressive to me, is when it's like, these aren't just random historical facts that are cool and fun to know about. They're actually relevant to the character's journey. So weaving in as many of those as you can, making them relevant to the character's journey, that is really, really cool.
Like Poldark in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, boom, exactly.
There you go.
And so many things with Poldark, honestly.
Yeah, Poldark's a great example for so many great story principles in a historical fiction period drama.
And there's like historical references through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that with like all the plots with like the free trading.
Yeah.
And how that was actually happening at the time. And it like works so seamlessly with what he's doing in his story. It's just like, oh, it's so good because it makes it relevant to the characters and their personal journey. Yeah. So I would say like, only include the historical facts when it's actually relevant to the character's story. Right. Because that will make it way more engaging. My question is, I'm someone who loves movies and loves to imagine how this movie can take another direction, or what was the backstory of this movie and how it will be in the future. So I started to write my imaginations, but the problem is I don't know how to describe some scenes that I feel like it looks better on the screen, but not that awesome written. How do I make it awesome?
Write it like you'd write a film.
Yeah.
Make it a movie, except it's not.
You know what's really fun to do is like to take a scene that you really like in a movie, and I've done this before, and like write it in the style of a novel.
Oh, that's cool.
Like instead of in the style of a screenplay, like, and like take your time, like pause and look at the character's face expression, the actor's face expression, and like how would you write that in a sentence?
That's really cool. I've never
that
thought
can
of
be
that.
a really good
I didn't know you
exercise.
did that. That's rad.
I've done
That's
that before.
really good.
Just as like a fun exercise. Yeah. And also to do like alternate endings like you're talking about. That's a great way to start. So like start with the scene that already exists, and then you want to like make an alternate ending for it or whatever. Like start writing the scene that already exists and write it like in the style of a novel, and then take it in a different direction. That will be really, really cool. Yeah. But don't worry too much about it like not seeming awesome, or like, oh, this doesn't sound good written, because chances are you're just like you're overthinking it. You're too close to it.
Like no author, most authors, when they like, even when you're like ready to publish a thing, you're like, oh my gosh. Like, is it even good?
It's probably
like when you want to read this. It's like, well, of course you're so tired of it after reading it like 80 times. So it seems less awesome to you. To someone else, it's going to be like, this is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So just hang in there.
Hang in there. Experiment. And have fun with it. This is a good one for you, Katie. Writing sensitive topics. How do you approach them without making it seem insensitive?
So I think a great way to write sensitive topics is to do research and reach out to people who do know. Reach out to people. It's amazing how so many times in my writing journey, writing past manuscripts that are not yet published, There was a particular book I was working on about veterans, and I actually worked with veterans on the book. I had veterans beta read it. I researched what I was talking about and then ran it past veterans. And it's amazing how open people are to being asked for advice. And hey, would you look at this? Would you read this? Give me your opinion. People are so willing to help with things like that. So don't be afraid to reach out. That's my advice on that. So many people are too hesitant, like, oh, I don't want to bother that person. I don't want to bother this organization. They won't get back to me. Hey, they probably will. Someone probably will. And most of the time, think of it the other way around. If someone asked your advice on something, would you get back to them? You'd probably be stoked to help them out. So reach out, do research. There's tons of resources out there, and don't be afraid to ask someone for help or advice.
Yeah. Hit the nail on the head. Also, you learn a ton. It's a really fascinating journey, I think, to do research like that and to actually talk to people.
Yeah, people who have been there, done that, been in, had that situation happen to them or lived through it, and hearing their story, it just takes your book to the next level, being able to actually learn about that topic.
Yeah. It's so cool.
It is.
How to write a sci-fi story with romance in just 8,000 words, aka how do I fit everything in my short story? So we're going to go more into short stories in the future, but that is worth thinking about. Is it really a short story? That would be the first question that comes to my mind. Maybe it's longer than a short story. Maybe it should be something bigger.
Right.
Don't try to squish yourself into a box where you're outgrown it already.
Right. I've started short stories before, and I'm like, oh wait, this is a novel.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So maybe don't cross that out.
Yeah. Or maybe a novella or a short novel or something.
Or maybe a series of short stories.
Yeah. Yeah. So
the possibilities are endless.
The possibilities are endless. I would say just write. Don't worry about squishing it into to fit a particular word count, because that will limit your creativity. And who knows, it could spiral into something amazing if you just let your creativity run wild. Besides internal conflict, what really hooks readers and pulls them into your story?
Besides internal conflict?
Yeah.
I would say the opening hook, whatever you decide to use for that, which usually has to do with internal conflict, has to be there.
Right. Something it has to matter to the characters.
Right.
For sure.
I think something that is a question, oftentimes, when you ask someone's brain a question, it wants to answer. You know what I mean? If someone this happens all the time, it's the principle of someone walking up to you in the mall and saying, hey, do you know where blah, blah, blah is? Or someone asking you hey, do you know where this store is or something? Your brain automatically is trying to think do I have the answer? Do I have the answer? Do I have the answer? It's you automatically start trying to come up, even if you don't know where it is. You're like, oh, what can I, do I know? You know what I mean? It's
curiosity.
That's literally what your brain's doing.
Yeah.
It's never just no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the same when you open a book and it's question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same with same principle goes really well for the tagline. Is that what it is on a book?
Yeah.
The tagline. The subtitle thing. If you can make that a question. Mark Dawson on the Selfpublishing Formula podcast had a great episode, and I can't remember the author they had on, but he was talking about asking a question in the subtitle and how it when you engage someone's mind, and now they're thinking of that as them. How would I answer that question?
Right.
Now they want to see how the character's going to answer, because they're kind of vicariously living through the character.
Yeah, which really goes with the premise of and this goes into blurb writing and all of that, is you're really hooking the person before they even open the book.
Right.
So you're kind of hooking them with the idea of it.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of the hooking the reader comes in before they even look at the first page. Obviously you want your first page to be great. You want it to pull the reader in, but you kind of already intrigued them and pulled them in through the book blurb. Like you said, the tagline, the front, the cover. What are the other things that got them here? Because this wasn't really step one. How did they happen upon your book?
Right.
They're not going to pick up a copy of your book lying around somewhere with no cover on it and just start reading the first page.
Exactly.
Something else has to hook them first.
Yeah. if you want to go really in depth on this, go back and watch. I can't remember what episode it was. We had Dave Chesson of Kindlepreneur on, and he talked about the buyer's journey, which means someone, who's interested in your book, how they're seeing your book, what's pulling them in, what different aspects, and how they're marching down that path towards buying your book and reading it. Great episode. He gives amazing advice. So I would recommend, if you want to really go in detail, watch that episode.
Yeah. For sure. That's an awesome episode. What separates good books from great books? Internal conflict.
Yeah.
How do you write a character with their misbelief if they have no memories? Ooh, that's kind of interesting.
That is interesting. All right, so if
I think they
no
could still have a
memories.
misbelief even if they don't have memories, because like.
So is it like? How do they mean, like, if they have like?
I guess if it started with like
something?
they don't remember anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they
that
could still
journey in
have
and of
beliefs.
itself could be internal conflict, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
that
what I
could
mean?
spark a belief.
Well, look at like the one that pops in my head immediately is Anastasia.
Yeah,
She doesn't know
that's like
anything about her past, but
Yeah.
that's like what drives the story forward.
Right.
I think that's
Very good example.
Yeah.
I love that story, and that's so that so drives her whole journey,
Right.
and her whole journey to the past, her whole internal conflict is that she doesn't remember and she has to remember.
Right.
How do you write fight scenes that is confusing to the character but not the reader? You need to go watch our episode on fight scenes.
Yeah, go watch our episode on fight scenes.
We just did one kind of recently. It
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago, but it was good.
Yeah.
We went pretty in depth.
Understand the fight yourself, understand the techniques so well that the way you're describing them, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So then you can make it confusing to the character, but you have to know what you're talking about. Because if you know, the reader will know. But if you don't know, the character won't know, and the reader won't know, and nobody will.
Yeah.
It also helps. I mean? Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it also helps to have a character that's maybe like a third character or something in the scene who does know what's happening, so that at least one perspective is
Right.
understanding.
Or if you're
what's
writing it
going
from
on.
third person,
Yeah. Exactly.
which I feel like less and less authors are doing third person,
Yeah.
but there are still quite a few. Like, I mean, third person can be spectacular. So,
But, like,
if you're
experiment
writing it
with
from
things.
a narrative,
Yeah.
narrator's point of view.
Yeah. The experiment with new styles and stuff. I would say, like, to make it confusing for the character, like trying short, snappy descriptions that are kind of vague but also precise. Like, think slam poetry, and then maybe like later they see that they're watching the fight on a security camera later in the future,
Right.
and they see exactly what happened.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it's
that's just, like,
it's more of like I think don't over describe. Like, so
Yeah.
instead of being like, he winds back his arm and bam, hits me in the face with a perfect right hook, say knuckles right in my upper lip.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? So it's more like,
Yes.
because I wouldn't be seeing it that fast, like with something that's
Mm-hmm.
happening that fast. I wouldn't see it like that. I would just be feeling
Yes, the
the
feeling.
pain. So
Yeah.
shoot for the feeling, not so much for the every technical aspect, but know the technical aspects yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I would like to ask how to not make a Mary Sue character. Give her or him a misbelief, please.
Internal conflict.
Flaws are really what make them not a Mary Sue character. And flaws come from your misbelief, but like the fatal flaw kind of is the misbelief. I have a whole video on how to find the misbelief or the fatal flaw, but that's what I find is like when it's like a really generic like Mary Sue character, everything about this character is just perfect. Well, they're perfect because they have no flaws.
Yeah.
And so they're therefore unrelatable.
Right. And it's kind of, there are no flaws kind of springs from, they have very little internal conflict, or at least you're not seeing hardly any of it as the reader.
Yeah. So give them some flaws and that will take care of the whole thing. Literally.
Yeah, it really does.
simple.
It really does. I can think of so many examples where that's true.
We need to do like a whole podcast.
Yeah,
on that
we
too.
should.
Your perfect character is ruining your story. How
That's a great title. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. That's great.
How long did it take each of you to finish your first novel? What was your first novel?
My first novel, was like when I was 16.
Was it? And that was a long one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that the long one?
Oh, yeah. No, that one was my second one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think my first one was like 60,000 words or something. It wasn't very long. Or maybe it was longer. Maybe it was 80,000. And it took me probably like the summer.
My first really legit the summer, that's not bad.
Yeah, a few months.
My first long one that I wrote, because the first one was like 30 something thousand words, but the first substantial one I did was over 250,000 words.
So crazy.
And
Have
I wrote
you written
it in
anything
4
longer
months.
Since?
No.
Oh my God, 4 months? That's
4 months.
Insane.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was really an interesting experience. And I have not written that volume. I remember having like a 9,000 word day, and that was like a record for me. I'm like, dang.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it was fun.
If you are young, like even younger than a teenager, and have a great passion for writing, how do you have more drive to finish stories when it's extremely unlikely that will ever be published or even seen by anyone? I've always struggled with finishing stories when knowing that there will be no reward for it.
Well, don't think that. First of all, I think you need to change your perspective.
I agree.
Don't think just because you're young that no one will ever see this and no one will ever read it. There's been so many books I've read that have been published like later on by someone. It's like, oh, I published my early works that I wrote when I was like 12. And people are buying it and eating it up. So don't think that, oh, just because, I'm 10 or 11 or 12, that I can't, that this is like, not important or of consequence because it can't be something. That's not true. It can be something. And even if you write something just for fun, think of it as every word you write is contributing to the greater whole of your writing journey. Every single word you write is a step in the right direction, is a step on your own personal path.
Yeah,
it's important.
Exactly. The practice is the reward itself. I think.
It is for sure. I've written lots of things that no one's ever seen, but
Same.
they've all contributed to things that I've written that people have seen and enjoyed.
Yeah. And also you can look at it as like the things that you end up publishing and being proud of are like the end result sort of putting in the work beforehand.
Exactly.
And practicing over and over again.
Like imagine if like an Olympic figure skater was like, I shouldn't even bother like doing this performance in an empty auditorium because no one's ever going to see it. Well, it's like, well, eventually you're going to be at the Olympics and you won't get to the Olympics unless you do all these times where no one's ever watching.
Exactly. Perfect analogy. And it feels like going to the Olympics sometimes, man.
Yeah, it seriously does.
My question is that I've been making great plots for a story I want to write, but they're not all original. They all have things and ideas from other books. How do you make an original plot?
I don't think there is an original plot.
I agree.
Like nothing's original.
Everything's been done before.
Like I remember like, and I've mentioned this before, like Ron Howard on his masterclass trailer saying like there's really only 7 stories, and he was talking about like how most films follow like 7 different storylines. Like how many Night Slay the Dragons movie are there? How many, like look at like Disney movies and how many of them follow the same plot line.
Yeah.
But they're all different stories. So it's going to be what you bring to it from your own unique experience. I wouldn't be so hung up on like, how do I find the original idea? Because that will kind of keep you up at night and you'll lose sleep and you'll like be upset and it's just not worth it. Just write whatever you want, whatever you're passionate about. From your, and what you bring from your own unique experience will be what makes it unique. Like, what would you say?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all been done before. So you kind of have to go off of why it matters to you and the unique perspective that you're bringing to it, and why is it personally significant and important to you? Because that's the only thing that's really going to see you through the whole process and make you like excited to write it and motivated to write it. Because otherwise, when you see some other story that's kind of like it, you'll be like, oh, it's been done before. Now I have to throw that away and not write it, which would be insane. It'd be a tragic waste because this has something special that nothing else does.
Exactly. And also people who like one thing will also love things like it.
Exactly. Like
You know?
there's so many stories that are so similar and
Right.
they're like all in the best
Like
selling
look
list.
at how many
How did
look
that
at how
happen?
many after Twilight, how many vampire stories there were, but no one was like, oh, I read Twilight and I don't need to ever read any of those again.
Exactly.
People who like vampire stories are going to read a whole bunch of vampire stories, so
Comp titles.
they're actually looking for similar books.
Yeah.
So sometimes similarities are a good thing because you can tap into your genre, you can find your people, you
Exactly.
can find your perfect reader.
Exactly. How do you tackle self-doubt as a writer? You need to go watch our episode about believing in yourself as a writer. That's
Yeah.
like our most popular episode.
It
too.
is.
It's like straight up motivation. We'll link it in the description below if we remember to, because
Yeah.
it is awesome if I do say so myself. How do you both stay motivated during the editing process? You've been doing a lot of editing
Yeah, I
lately,
have.
so
I think
how do you stay motivated? Coffee?
I was literally, that was the first thing that came to my head, actually. I have an espresso machine now. That thing gets me through pretty much anything. Lots of hardships that has brought me through. Second to the espresso machine would be just finding the joy in it, appreciating it, taking it slow. Don't work yourself up to be like, oh, this is gonna suck, because then it sucks even more. So just be like, just calm down, take it slow, find the joy in the journey, and also relish in the fact that it's making you a better writer, because it does make you a lot better writer.
And like the before and after, just like feel satisfied that you made a page, even if it's just one page, better.
Yeah.
And it's much better than it was before.
Come up with a celebration thing that you want to do when
Yeah.
it's over. Like if it's like you want to go out to
Rewards.
dinner, you want to bake a cake, you want to, go for a walk in the woods, have a party, whatever,
Yeah.
reward yourself.
Reward yourself. You've earned it. What are your favorite tropes to write and least favorite? Love triangles are one of my favorites. I know people are like, oh, I love triangles, but I think they can be done well. I'm actually writing one right now and I'm really enjoying it.
Have I written one? I feel like I write
Yeah.
love triangles.
Oh, yeah. There's
Yeah.
a really good love triangle in the Blood Race.
Yeah, so I like that.
And there's also, I won't say anything. I know it's a secret.
Okay. Yeah,
We both like writing love triangles.
Yeah,
I
we
think.
do. We do.
I don't know what my least favorite would be. I probably don't write about any tropes that I don't like.
Yeah. I don't really even understand what a trope is.
It's just like a plot device, like love
Okay.
triangles, insta love, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay,
I only think
yeah.
of romance ones, but
Yeah.
What literary genres are out of your comfort zone?
Historical fiction, because so
Historical
much
fiction.
research.
So much research.
Like I wish I could just download it all into my head and write like amazing historical fiction, but it scares me
Same.
so much.
Same. I'd like have to work with an actual historian, which is a good idea and
Yeah.
probably be fun. But
Yeah, it would.
what happens in between plot points? The reaction or the response to said plot points. Plot point happens. That's the action of the plot. Then your characters have to respond or react. That's what happens in between them. My question is, how do I write romance? I'm in the second act of the story and I have introduced the two characters to fall in love. I have searched how to write believable romance, one that doesn't seem or feel forced, yet people will be rooting for them. I would say notice what romances you really like and what do you like about them. Like analyzing your favorite romance stories and asking yourself like, okay, well, why am I rooting for these characters? What are the dynamics here? What are the things that I love about their relationship? Even if you just have to make like a master list of all the stuff you like as a concept, and then see how those things like match up and what's like the common denominator. That's the thing that I always come back to. It's like, what are the things that I'm the most attracted to? And then what's the common denominator? And how can I incorporate that with
Right.
my characters? I
Yeah.
would say. Try
Yeah.
not to like read too much about it, because I feel like that's not really that in the end, that'll just be like too overwhelming.
Yeah, look more for like gut instinct, what you're attracted to.
What you like, what you love.
Because that's what you'll be most passionate about.
Exactly. Oh, this question is for Kate. How do you cope with loneliness and isolation while living in the woods? Is it relaxing and calming to be surrounded by trees and nature, or is it depressing and hard at times?
I love it. I love it so much. We've lived in the woods our whole life in Vermont, so I'm so used to it that I don't even really think about it. But I really love it. I find solitude really easy to write in, especially when you're surrounded by nature. So it's always really helped me to be sort of like just really far from everything that's distracting. Helps me a lot. But it also helps that I have my family nearby, so it's not like I'm just off in a cabin, just me by myself.
I still feel isolated. But I wasn't asked the question, so I'll just keep my opinions to myself. Here's a fun holiday one. Okay, what is your favorite holiday activities, and what is your usual Christmas day like?
Oh, this is such a fun question. I love this.
Yay,
do you want to go
Christmas
first?
Question. Favorite holiday activities: baking cookies, eating cookies, baking more cookies,
Eating more cookies.
Listening to Christmas music while you eat cookies.
Yeah.
What about you?
I really love like going and cutting down a tree.
Yeah.
That's really fun. We did that yesterday. Like we went off into like this like remote farm way up in their property. They had like cut your own trees. So we went and cut a tree. We have like 2.5 feet of snow. So they're just like lumps. You have to kind of like shake it. I got snow all down my neck. It was like hard. But so we found one. It was so much fun. I also made my first wreath. I made my own garlands. I love like foraging in the forest for things like branches and pine cones, dipping pine cones in wax. Like
notice all Katie's stuff involves being outside, and all of my stuff involves being inside.
Like I like baking cookies too, but like I love like going out. Like the other day it was 10 degrees and I went out and just like played in the snow with my dog for a while and took pictures. And
she wanted
like,
me to go out and
foraging for pine cones.
I'm like, no, it's too cold.
I'm like,
I think it was 3 degrees actually. But
oh, was it?
yeah, I was like,
it didn't feel that bad. My hands were a little non-functioning after a while, but that's like when you know to come in, like when your fingers kind of stop working. It's like,
oh my gosh.
Well, my camera stopped working first, then my fingers. I'm like, okay,
that's a good sign. Camera stopped working, time to go in. Yeah, and our usual Christmas day is like we open presents in the morning and then
hang out with family,
eat like cinnamon rolls or something.
Nice breakfast, like home fries are a big part of Christmas day.
Yes,
yeah,
and then
home fries and
like,
cast iron skillet. It's like such Christmas morning vibes. Yeah,
and then it's usually like this weird limbo where you don't know what to do with the rest of your day. So I usually like write or plot a story or something.
Yeah,
or read a book or something like that. Just like something chill, no pressure. How do you know you are ready to self-publish or just publish in general?
I feel like when you read your book and you just have a feeling of like, this is it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's for me, it was pretty distinct. Like, this is the book I want to publish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you're ready to share it with
What
the
about
world.
for you?
Yeah. Like I knew with 100 Days of Sunlight, I'm like, this is my debut novel. This is the one I'm like most excited about, and I'm closest to sharing it with the world. So if you have multiple projects that you're working on and maybe are different stages of doneness, I would say to think about them in relation to like which one am I most eager to share with the world and which one is like the most ready to be shared. And then I think as far as like feeling ready to publish in general, like you kind of have to jump before you think you should, like take the first step, act before you're ready sort of thing, because you'll never really feel totally ready. So you have to just take the first step. Kate and Abbie, can you tell us what you have to say about the rewriting process and any good suggestions on how to take it on?
That's a great question for you because you've done way more rewriting than
I've
me.
done a lot of rewriting. I would say simplify.
You're really good at it.
Like, it can be so overwhelming, especially if you're coming to like a hot mess of a manuscript. It can be really overwhelming because you're like, oh my gosh, this needs so much work. But trying to like look at the big picture, try to just like narrow it down to, okay, what's the specific protocol here? What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Like, it can be really that simple. Make 2 separate lists, what I like, what I don't like, and then take it from there and start like breaking it down chapter by chapter if you have to, and just look at one chapter at a time. I also like to, in the rewriting process, if it's like a hot mess of a manuscript, I like to take the 3-act story structure and rewrite it. So whatever story structure I made for this book originally, like make a whole new one. And once you outline it or structure it or both, in more detail, you can then approach the rewriting process from a better place of like, okay, I know where I'm going. I have my GPS mapped out, and this is what I'm going to do to rewrite this book and make it really good. Because otherwise, you're kind of just flying blind and like smacking your way through this manuscript and trying to make things better, but you don't really have a long-term plan.
Yeah, you should identify what the things are you want to change first.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then get more and more detailed if you need to, but you don't always have to get super detailed. So I would say try to keep it as simple as possible because it can be overwhelming to rewrite a book. Can watching good movies help you become a better writer?
Yes. So much.
100%. Because I know good books help, but can watching movies, good character-driven movies, do the same thing? Absolutely, positively. What is your book word count, and what are your views regarding word count limit?
Word count limit?
Like limiting your word count.
Oh. That's like something most people aren't trying to do. They're like, how do I get my word count up there? You know?
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, sometimes it's too long. Like I have a manuscript I'm working on that's too long. It's like
I don't think anything is ever too long.
It's too long, but
you can make like
it can be whatever
on what
you want.
People want. So I know so many people are like, I love a good long book, and there are certain publishers that are looking for longer word counts.
Yes,
if you're or audiobooks and stuff. As I'm learning publishing my audiobooks through Podium, like there are certain audiobook publishers that want longer books. Right. So try to think about first, like, who are you writing for? And what do you want it to be? You could always make it a series too. It's another thing. Is it something that you could make into a series or a duology? Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't matter. But if you're like, oh, I want it to be, a cute, heartwarming, short book, then, so kind of figure out what you want it to be first.
Yeah. What do you want the reading experience to be?
Because then you have books like that are hugely long, like the Game of Thrones series, I think is like gigantically long. So it's like, well, what genre are you writing? Who are you writing for? Figure that out first and then decide whether it's too long or too short.
Exactly. And it doesn't always have to be like the same as comparable titles, but I would think, I would ask yourself, like, what do I want the reading experience to be like? Because, like you said, for a cute short book, you might want them to just read it in one sitting, sort of thing. In which case it has to be like probably less than 80,000 words, I would say. Because
people who read books in one sitting, like, amaze
like so many people.
I can read like a pamphlet about a museum in one sitting.
So many people have reviewed 100 Days of Sunlight, saying that they read it in one sitting or read it in a couple of hours.
It took me days to read that book. Days.
Same. But and that was 73,000 words, I believe.
Wow.
Or
some people just read fast.
Yeah. I know it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I've been having a hard time recently writing, and whenever I try to sit down and write, I just can't. But not writing puts me in a constant state of sadness and boredom. What should I do to be able to write with inspiration so I can keep being happy?
Write something totally different, or what you're writing, flip it on its head.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can fall into, at least for me, I fall into like places where it's like it feels stale. You're not moving forward, and I'm the same way. I'm not as happy when I'm not writing. So flip it on its head. What can you do completely different? Like, what's the opposite of what you're doing? Or what's the upside down version of what you're doing? Or what if you came at it from that character's point of view? What if you added a point of view? Like, ask yourself these questions that can breathe complete new life into your story. Or maybe take a break from it. Write a short story. Write a novella. Write another project you're super passionate about.
Write a fan fiction.
Yeah. Check out our episode about that.
Yeah, I agree. That's great advice. Favorite story and why? And no, you can't choose your own or your sister's.
Dang it!
You know us so well. We are going to just choose each other's books because we're the great sister goals.
Yep.
What's yours? I think I know yours.
Yeah.
Story that just said so. It can be a movie or a book.
Yep. It's the Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. The film is my favorite film. The book is my favorite book. If you haven't read it, you're missing out.
You are missing out.
So good.
It is great.
So for a multitude of reasons.
My favorite story has always been and probably will always be To Kill a Mockingbird because it just has such a great way of exploring the depths of the human condition in so many really awesome, like eye-opening ways. But I love how it's told from a kid's perspective. That to me is like the coolest, most unique element of it. Any tips for writing a male perspective? I really love the way you wrote Weston's perspective, Abby. Thank you very much. Weston is my favorite. I love it too.
He's awesome.
I love Weston so much. I would say for tips for that is like try to embody the character and their personality more so than just thinking about like, oh, I'm writing from a male's perspective. Like what I do for pretty much every character, but especially male characters, because I kind of have to like jump completely into their head. I mean, I do that with every character, obviously, but for a character that's less like me, I should say, I will make aesthetic boards, look at the aesthetic boards. That gets me in the vibe of what their personality is
amazing.
Like. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It really is. I will also like listen to the type of music that they would listen to. I find that also helps, like make a playlist that they would listen to and then listen to it and try to like embody their personality, really focus on their personality, and do some of the activities that they would do. So maybe they're like into running or rock climbing or like lifting weights. Go try some of that. And while you're doing it, like think about this character and how they feel about stuff and what they would be thinking about and like narrating in their head while they were doing this activity.
Were you thinking about Weston when you were rock climbing?
No, because I didn't try rock climbing until after I wrote the book. True.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But I would think about his character while I was running. Because I don't like writing. Okay. I don't like running. But I would run a little bit and I would be like thinking about his character. And I'm like, because there's a lot of cool running scenes with him in 100 Days. So I'm like, Weston likes running. I'll try to like running for a few minutes. But yeah, really. But like while you're doing stuff like that, like think about the character and like, I guess, embody their personality is sort of the advice here.
I think trying new things that your character would do is really fun.
Yeah, and that works for female characters as well as male characters. But if you're writing from a male's perspective and you're a female, then I know that it can feel like, oh, maybe I'm not qualified to write this, but that's really not true. It's really more about their personality.
Yeah,
so exactly. Like, embodying their personality and their voice, I think is the key there.
Solid advice.
What are your MBTI types and Enneagram types? I was so looking forward to this question.
I don't do any of those.
Katie doesn't do personality
I'm like a purist about things like
that.
She
always doesn't like it when I talk about it, but
I hear about it all the time.
Yup. And I'm so good at like psychoanalyzing people that I've just pegged her personality type for her. And I've forced her to take the tests and stuff, but I've been right every time.
Forced me, yeah. Accurate.
I am an INFJ and an Enneagram 1 with a wing of 2, which is very accurate. I'm such a typical 1. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And Katie is an INFP, and she would argue everything I say, but she's also an Enneagram 7 with a strong wing of 8, like right in between the two, I would say. Right in between 7 and 8.
I don't know what any of this stuff means, but I know I am a being who will not be put in a box.
Just trust that I'm right. I usually am. Okay.
True.
Okay, my phone battery is getting low, so let's get these last few questions in here.
Wrap this up like a Christmas present.
Yes, exactly.
Also, I'm drinking peppermint tea out of a green tin mug.
That's very festive, and your shirt is red.
Yeah. So. And it has a deer on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Okay. Is it possible to edit your own book, revision, line edits, copy edits, proofreading, etc., without having a professional editor for people like me who have to work with low to no budget at all?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think you'll definitely have to, it'll be a lot more work, but it's possible. And if you can find some good beta readers that can work with you as like, in place of proofreading.
Yeah.
Proofreading, really, if you budget anything, do proofreading, because that really is nowhere near as much as editing will be. Yeah. And it's really not bad. There's some really reasonable proofreaders out there. And I think there's lots of freelance services where you can find a proofreader pretty easily.
Yeah.
So if you don't do anything else, if you're going to do all your edits, the thing that's hardest to find in my experience is like typos or little grammar things that will slip by because you just look at it so much and you're not going to see them anymore. So that would be the best thing. Have beta readers, and then if you can manage to budget in a proofreader, that would be like the only thing that you would like must have this if you really the rest you can do yourself.
Right,
for sure,
because that's really what's going to make it like look professional.
Yeah,
is that there's no typos and grammatical errors.
And if you don't have any beta readers, join our Facebook group. Great writing community. Tons of writers helping each other, cheering each other on, reading stuff for each other. It's like blossomed into quite the community. So feel free to check it out. And
over 1,000 people in that community.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Facebook.com/group/start your story challenge.
Yes.
It's all about starting your story, getting after it, writing your book. And it's an awesome little community. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, I agree. You will. Last question is, how do you stop yourself from second guessing your work and giving up on projects? Stop second guessing your work and giving up on projects.
Yeah, it's as easy as that. It really is.
It is.
I know what you mean about the second guessing thing, and it can be so easy to be like, oh, what if it's not good? But you could do that forever. And
like the minute that pops in your head, just be like, shh, not listening to that. Thank you.
Go listen to our motivational one. Our motivational episode.
Believing in yourself.
Believing in yourself as a writer. That's so
where it's
full
at.
of good advice on how to believe in yourself as an author, and as far as sticking with projects, just stick with it.
Just stick with it.
You don't need to write the whole book. You just need to write the next word.
Yeah. That's a good motivational note to end on. If you want more motivation, definitely check out that podcast that we referenced, because that is just like straight up motivation for any writer who needs a little boost of encouragement. You'll really like that. But it was great to answer your questions. We tried to get to most of them, and as you can tell, we went a little bit over time here, but it was a holiday special. So.
Yeah, holiday special. Speaking of, we hope you guys have an amazing holiday season, a Merry Christmas, an awesome winter. Go out and play in the snow if you have some. Or
bake
just
cookies.
Bake cookies. Enjoy some cocoa.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at
patreon.com/The Kate and Abbie Show.
Be sure to go follow Abby's amazing YouTube channel where she uploads writing videos and publishing videos every Wednesday. And that's youtube.com/Abbie Emmons, right?
Yes.
And if you're listening to this podcast somewhere else, you can find the video version of it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kate Emmons. We're stoked that you guys are here. We hope you got something fun out of this episode. Thank you to everyone who asked us these amazing questions. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. We'll see you in the next episode. Stay stoked.
And rock on.